right, welcome back to Mrs. Zell's SOL review. Today we are reviewing 8.14, which is dealing with representations of tables, graphs, words, and rules. This can be very difficult. You will need to know how to match up tables with graphs and vice versa, linear equations with graphs and tables as well. So, looking at the hints and the notes, remember when you're graphing ordered pairs, you move left or right on the x-axis first, then up or down for the y, and you always start at the origin 0, 0. Some test-taking strategies. If you have to match a table to a question, substitute the x and y until you can get a match, and do all of them. Don't just do the first one. If you have to match a table to a graph, be sure to check all ordered pairs. If you have to match an equation to a graph, create a table of at least three x values and substitute them to get y values. Then match your ordered pairs to the correct graph. And remember, some numbers that you could use is a negative number, 0, 1, and 2 if you'd like. So you can use a -1, 0, 1, and 2, and then you can just plug them in. So you could create your own table. If you match a graph to an equation, make a list of the ordered pairs from the graph and then substitute them in until you find a match. Number one might look a little confusing because you have two tables, A and B, and then C and D are graphs. What they want to know, though, is which best represents this linear equation. And if you remember, y equals mx plus b, this x is really a 1x, which is the slope. So the slope really is 1 or 1 over 1, and the plus b is where it crosses the y-intercept. The y-intercept crosses at the -1. So you could plug in a 0 here for an x, but then you would get a +1, so that wouldn't work. You could plug in a 3 for the x, and 3 minus 1 is 2. That would work, but if you plug in a 6, 6 minus 1 is 5, so b would not work. C does not work because the y-intercept is at -1, which is right here, so that does not work. If you look here, it crosses the y at the -1. The slope is 1 or 1 over 1, which means it's a positive slope, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So the correct answer is D. Number 2, which table contains only points that lie on the line, represented by y equals 2x minus 2/3 x minus 6. So basically what you're going to do is plug in some values to see if it works. So for number 2, let's look at letter A. If I plugged in a 0 for x, that's 0 minus 6, which does equal a -6. So you have to test the next one. If you plugged in a 9, you would not get a 6. It does not work. Same thing here. If you plug in a 0, you're going to get a -6, so that would not work. If you plugged in a -3, so 2/3 times a -3 over 1, okay, so you're going to multiply that, then subtract 6. Well, this becomes a 1, that's a -1. So -2 minus 6 ends up being a -8. The correct answer is actually C. Both of those values, x, work to get the correct value in y. So the correct answer was C. Number 3, which of these equations represents the table of values? Again, you could plug in your values, but the correct answer is D. How is it D? Well, take 2 times a -2 plus 6 gives you -4 plus 6, which gives you 2. If you plugged in all of these from the table, you would get them all to work for D. Number 4, Margaret has $200 in her savings account. She will deposit $50 into this account each week and will make no withdrawals. Which table represents the situation excluding interest? So week 1, she has $200 in her bank account. Each week she's going to deposit $50. So it's going to increase by $50 each week. So the correct answer was A. So check back tomorrow for the next SOL review video.